And Matt George, host of the Locked On Kings podcast, and of course, sports anchor over at ABC 10. Matt, big game tonight. What? Let's start. You got to move back to move forward. That's doesn't even make sense. That's not a thing.
Well, that's what they say.
Do they?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go with it. The hell happened the other night in are the Clippers the latest tough matchup for Sacramento?
Okay, so you're a professional, Damian Barling, because you lead into conversations with guests with questions, which is the correct way to do things, instead of just asking how are you as if anybody cares. And I was planning for you to ask how am I, because I had a bit prepared, kind of, but we can get to that later. Anyway,
I killed the gimmick. Oh, see,
no, it wasn't a gimmick. It wasn't a gimmick. I was just I was going to tell you that I've been driving like almost all day today, so I've been listening to the entire show, and I've been compiling notes. So I have notes, and we'll get to at one point. I have notes just about today's show. Not criticisms, kind of.
Can you wait till Complex leaves before you share those notes with everybody?
In fact, that made me want to share them more. But yes, I guess the Clippers are now suddenly the latest team on the list of bad matchups, which now means we have 3 teams that can be classified as bad matchups in the Western Conference. And if you want to add the Golden State Warriors as a kinda, because they've beaten the Kings twice, if you have this many teams in the West that are potentially playoff teams that can be classified as bad matchups, certainly 2 in the Pelicans and now the Clippers, you're probably in trouble, because now that's slim pickings on the teams that you actually want to face in a best-of-7 series.
And see, that's why I don't classify neither one of them as bad matchups. You just lost to them. I mean, do they have? Is it hard to guard Zion? Is it hard to guard Ingram? Yeah, sure. You know what I mean. But sometimes I hope that the coaches and the players, and I know they don't look at these things the way us fans do sometimes, because that would be terrible. Well, I don't know what we're gonna do, guys. It's just a bad matchup. I don't know what we're gonna do. What? No, you lost a couple of games. You got to figure something out. That's
guys, let's not bother. It's a bad matchup.
No, so yeah, no, that's why, Matt. You won't ever really hear me say it's a bad matchup.
Yeah, I don't know if there are certainly matchup elements, and there's clearly a type of player that Sacramento really struggles against. It's long, physical, athletic wings. Sacramento just struggles against those type of players. And those players, it's not just guarding them, because naturally we think Kings struggles on the defensive end. Long, athletic wings give the Kings problems when they pack the paint and force Sacramento to shoot a lot of threes. That's been a consistent theme that I've seen with the Clippers. Certainly with the Pelicans. We saw it with the Houston Rockets, which is a third team that you might want to classify as a bad matchup. I know De'Aaron didn't play in those games, but still, I don't know how much De'Aaron Fox could have saved how terribly the rest of that Kings team played in those 2 games against the Houston Rockets. I'm interested to see when the Kings and Rockets play again what it looks like now that there's a little more context, and knock on wood, De'Aaron Fox will be playing in that game, but we'll get to that at a future date. Like, I look at this team and I just get like, I think this is what they are. Like they're a team that does not surprise anybody anymore. They're a team that they have 4 guys, 4 dudes. And if 2 out of the 4 are playing well, then they have a chance to win. If 3 out of the 4 are playing well, they're probably gonna win. If all 4 are playing well, this team looks unstoppable. And those 4 are Fox, Sabonis, Monk, and Murray. You can sprinkle in a Huerter here. You can sprinkle in a Harrison Barnes game every once in a while there. Trey Lyles off the bench. Sasha Vezenkov going crazy. Like, you can sprinkle in this help, but ultimately it's those 4. And if any combination of the 4 are rolling, then Sacramento typically is rolling, whether it's Fox and Monk or Fox and Sabonis or Sabonis and Keegan, whatever combination. But we've seen too many games where only one of the 4 is playing well, or all 4 of them are just playing fine. And those are typically the games that the Sacramento Kings are losing by double digits. And the fact that they've had this many double-digit losses, what's concerning to me, guys, is that through 22 games in both last season and this season, the Kings same record, 13-9. You can look at it through the perspective of, okay, you're 13-9, but this year you've had a lot more injuries and you're still at the same record and still on the same pace as the season that you were the third seed in the West. So there's that positive way of looking at it. And I like looking at it that way, and I want to look at it that way. But then when you look at the numbers and you look at how the Sacramento Kings are through the 22 games in this season compared to last season, this is me doing my best Will Z impression here. The Kings are winning by a lesser margin. They're winning by around 2 points less per game. Not that big of a deal. They're still winning by 9.5 points per game in the 13 wins they have. But in the 9 losses, they're losing by an average of 15 points. And that's compared to last season through the first 9 games. They were losing by an average of 7 points. So their margin of losses has almost doubled. And I'm less concerned about the struggles of matchups, Kenny, and play teams like that. I'm more concerned about when this team is losing, they're getting their ass kicked consistently. And I don't know if Mike needs to figure that out, if the players need to figure that out. But whether it's the second night of a back-to-back or long, lengthy teams or whatever, the Kings are losing by double digits way too much this season.
We talked on yesterday, the day after the Clippers game, that this team, and I've just become like enamored with this term, tone setters, that like De'Aaron can set the tone in a game. And it feels like Malik can set the tone. Maybe he could set the tone like when he enters a game, right? For a moment, for a time. We've seen it. We can go back and we could talk about the Draymond Green incident against the Warriors. Let's not forget what Malik Monk did in that game and in those particular moments as well after the Draymond Green technical foul when the Kings beat the Warriors by 1. But it feels like if those guys are a little bit off, that might be it. Because Domas, not this isn't a criticism, not to be over. I don't think he does that. I don't think he's a tone setter. I think they're hoping Keegan can be, which is why I think we saw him play 30 plus minutes in the game against the Clippers. But it feels like if De'Aaron and Malik aren't hitting, you talked about, you just laid out the numbers. If one guy's playing well, 2 guys playing well, 3 guys playing well, if those guys can't set the tone, man, we might have those double-digit losses that you're talking about right there, because Harrison, Keegan, Kevin Huerter, Trey Lott, those guys aren't taking the reins. Hell, even Domas to a certain degree. They're not taking the reins and able to pull this thing forward.
See, and that's another element of this Kings team that I wouldn't say is necessarily concerning, but they have to figure out, is because before last season, De'Aaron had to be the clear above and beyond best player on the court every single night for Sacramento to have a chance. Last year it was, okay, De'Aaron was averaging 26 points per game. He's capable of averaging 30, but he didn't have to score that much last season for the Kings to win games. This season, like, the Kings are needing De'Aaron to score 30 points a night. And the Kings are needing Malik Monk to be right behind him with the energy. Like, if you're on a second night of a back-to-back and your guys that played 15 to 20 minutes the night before relying on the guy who played 38 to set the tone and bring the energy again, like, what the hell are you doing here? Like, to me, that's concerning, or that's unacceptable. If you're playing heavy minutes the day before and you're a top guy, the expectation is you got to be ready and get up and go again the next day. It's back-to-backs. Welcome to the league, right? Everybody has to do it. And Kawhi Leonard did that. He played 40 minutes against Portland, came back, played another 35 or whatever minute it was, 31 points, and dropped 31. He scored 31 points, in 31 minutes and brought it to the Kings the very next night. Like, that's what stars do. And De'Aaron didn't have that great a game. That's fine. But to me, I'm looking at the rest of the roster and going, HB, Kevin, Trey, guys who didn't put the team on their back the night before in that win over the Brooklyn Nets. Like, where are you? Step up, step to the plate. Like, give De'Aaron a little bit of help, because Fox and Monk have been above and beyond the 2 best players on this Kings team this season. I don't think it's particularly close. Domantas Sabonis has put up good numbers, and Sabonis naturally plays a support role to where if the other guys are shining, then Sabonis is doing well because he just naturally sets everybody up, scores around the rim, grabs rebounds, dishes out assists. So I'm not saying that to be negative about Sabonis, but Fox and Monk are clearly the heartbeat and lifeblood of this Sacramento team. When they're on, the Kings are at their best. But you can't rely on both of them to be on every single night. And other guys just need to be stepping up more and making more of an impact. I'm not just talking about scoring the basketball or hitting the majority of their shots or having a pulse on the defensive end. It's the heart. It's the passion. What did Mike Brown say after the loss in LA? He said, like, we didn't have any fight tonight. Like, I'm looking at the guys who should be coming in and providing that energy, bring the fight. And when the bench came into that game, really in the late first quarter, early second quarter, that's when things completely fell apart. So De'Aaron and Malik can't be the guys on the front lines throwing every single punch every game, or when they're not on, Sacramento's going to suffer.
I think the biggest thing right now, I would assume that we're all in agreement, but I'll ask you anyway, is just they haven't found a level of consistency that I think we're all looking for, because the things that we ask and the things that we want to see from this team, they've shown they're capable of giving it to us. I mean, Brooklyn was fantastic. That Brooklyn game was fantastic. Followed up with the Clippers game. That's just the tell of this team right now. Like, sometimes, like you mentioned earlier, Matt, sometimes if everybody's on, they're probably going to win. If a couple of things aren't going their way, it could get ugly real quick. And I think that's what we're waiting to see, if they're able to become more consistent. With this group, if they have to make changes, whatever, but can you be more consistent? They did it one time before in the 6-game winning streak. Now we want to see another streak where, maybe you win 7 of 10 games or something like that, to kind of separate yourself and make sure, hey, you're one of these guys. And maybe they did it right now.
How about Juan Toscano-Anderson?
I like that. I
like
like
that.
that.
Deal with the Sacramento Kings.
I like it.
Yes. Sorry, Matt. I just caught Matt off guard. Adrian Wojnarowski reports the Sacramento Kings are signing forward Juan Toscano-Anderson to a 1-year deal. Sources tell ESPN Toscano-Anderson has had stops with the Warriors, Lakers, and Jazz, and has been playing with Mexico City of the G League. Again, the Sacramento Kings are signing Juan Toscano-Anderson to a 1-year deal.
I'm not exactly sure what happened to him after the Warriors, because he wasn't that good after the Warriors, but I liked him when he was on the Warriors. I like what he brought to the table. So you're talking about a guy that, is a rotational guy, at best. And maybe he's a guy that you see every 2 or 3 games, and, if injuries are going on, and he can give you some type of spark. But one of the things that I'll say about JTA is we saw him at his best when Mike Brown was there. So maybe Mike Brown feels like he can get something out of him.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's made abundantly clear by this move, the Stanley Johnson move, the other G League moves, is Monty and the Kings front office are trying to acquire wings and give Mike some kind of help, because that wing position is by far the weakest position on this Kings team. And that's not intended to be a shot at Keegan and Harrison. In any case, like, if you look at the history of Sacramento, especially during the playoff drought, like, the Kings had a hard time having one starting caliber wing. They have 2 starting caliber wings right now, and one is underperforming with high expectations. And I'm talking about Keegan and making that second jump. Keegan's not playing bad basketball. He's just underperforming right now. That's okay. He's also much better on the defensive end than I was expecting right now. And then you have Harrison, who, if we're being completely honest, guys, is completely underperforming, period. Both sides of the floor. Like, he's just not playing well. He's not playing to the level that you would expect out of a starting veteran, wing. So Monty is clearly trying to get bodies in the building that at the very least can physically stack up at that position to give Mike Brown some looks, and maybe it increases any kind of intensity in practice, although the Kings don't practice that much or can't during the regular season. But, like, there's a size issue with this Kings team at that position. And that's one that I don't know if the Kings are going to be able to address much more than what they're doing right now. We talked at the live show at Sky River Casino last week, which was a great time, by the way, and shout out everybody who came out. But I shared with you, I don't think that a saving move from the trade deadline is coming this year. I just don't think it makes sense. I just don't think the Kings are set up for it. I think the Kings are set up again for a position of we ride with what we got. We believe that more experience plus better Fox plus Malik Monk playing this way and better Kevin Huerter and overall better starting lineup production maybe gets us out of the first round, reassess, and then attack next offseason and try and make the big moves there and make some big decisions there. That's where I think the signs are pointing to right now. Again, it's mid-December, so we got a ton of time before the trade deadline itself. But this Juan Toscano-Anderson move is further proof that the Kings need help at this position. They need depth. They need size because, again, those long, physical, athletic wings are giving Sacramento fits right now, and Keegan can't guard all of them.
Again, Adrian Wojnarowski reports James Ham confirms the Sacramento Kings are signing Juan Toscano-Anderson to a one-year deal. Of course, there's probably a lot of questions that the Kings do have a roster spot available. Mm-hmm. He is coming from the G League. Is this meant to be a two-way thing? Is this meant to be a main roster thing? Is he with the team the rest of the season? Is like his spot like certified? We've seen guys sign one-year deals with Sacramento that turn out to be like a guarantee of $20,000, $30,000. And they're cut before the season starts. Like we saw that during training camp. What this signing means, I'm not sure. Matt and Casey both did a great job pointing out he has a history with Mike Brown. There's probably something to that. I'm just, we point at that wing position, and I'm going to ask you, Matt, because you said something there about Harrison Barnes and the way that he's played this year. And as a vet, you expect more from him, and I certainly understand. What about Kevin Huerter? How do you feel about the way Kevin Huerter has played so far this year?
Kevin Huerter is now back on a downswing after, I think, a colossal rise, and a rise that was celebrated and deserved to be celebrated with the way he started this season and the way that I was very impressed by Kevin in the sense, in the case that he showed his ability to make an impact on the game outside of shooting, and then he continued to make that impact when the shot returned. Well, now the shot is starting to trickle off a little bit, and we're not seeing as much of an impact with the boards. We're not seeing as much of an impact with the ball movement, and even on the defensive end, to the point or to a level where Mike has played him less and less minutes. And at the same time, we're starting to see Keegan kind of wake up a bit offensively. And I know there's only so many shots to go around. And I actually talked about this after the Brooklyn game, is like, it's not just sharing the basketball in terms of assists, it's sharing the shot attempts. And there's only so many shot attempts can go around. Fox is going to be in the 20s. Sabonis should be behind him at like 14, 15 a game. Malik should probably be in the 14, 15 a game range. After that, Keegan might get 12 one night and Huerter's only getting 6, and it could be vice versa the other night, depending upon who's getting going. Like, I still think this team is figuring out how to get everybody their attempts and get everybody in a rhythm at the same time. But to go back to your question, D'Lo, about Kevin Huerter, the difference between Kevin and Harrison this season is Kevin has shown me that he can be impactful in the other ways that Mike is asking in addition to his offense. Harrison has not shown me that yet. He hasn't. He's not grabbing rebounds, and Mike has said specifically that that's an expectation of him. Harrison Barnes has been doing a terrible job guarding wings, I think. And I've been captain defender Barnes all the way. I thought the Kings signing Harrison for $18 million a year and bringing him back was a good thing. I'm starting to think I'm starting to be wrong, because Harrison is just not living up to the expectation of what this Sacramento Kings team needs, and it's a glaring issue on a semi-consistent basis. When he has good games, I'm happy to point that out. He played excellent against Brooklyn. He scored, I think, 12 or 14 points, completely in the flow of the offense, hitting corner threes, which was wonderful to see. Also made an impact on the defensive end that was halfway decent. Still didn't grab too many rebounds, but you know what? On a good offensive night, I'm willing to let that slide. But more often than not, he's not having a good offensive night. He's not grabbing boards. He's certainly not dishing assists. And then defensively, he's not able to stay in front of these long athletic wings that the Kings are having problems with. So, like, the criticisms are high for Harrison right now. Sometimes over the top, I agree. He's not the scapegoat by any means, and moving on from Harrison doesn't solve all the Kings' problems, but he's certainly not helping right now.
Do the Kings need to make a move?
Can I follow up before you ask that? Just real quick, because I have a little bit of a problem with what Matt said, only in the regard that, and I see RP talking about, hey, Thank you, Matt. Glad you acknowledged that HB's not good enough. Well, Matt keeping it in. I got you. I'm gonna ask the chat and I'm gonna ask Matt. What did you expect? Like, what did you think was going to happen when Harrison signed this contract? What we're seeing this year, to me, this is Harrison Barnes in a Sacramento Kings uniform, even as recently as last year. This is Harrison Barnes. Am I wrong? You're looking at me like I'm wrong.
I think he's been worse this year.
I agree. I think Harrison
has he been worse, or has Keegan supplanted him in the hierarchy of the makeup of this team?
Yes, maybe.
Yes.
Okay. Right. You know, that doesn't excuse him not being as good.
So
you know what I'm saying? Like, even like I know James always talks about, oh man, he's not getting the same shots. Go grab a goddamn rebound.
I understand.
Go play better defense.
Like
you're not getting the same amount of shots, still have an impact on the game. And now, what that tells me is, if you're not shooting, then you're invisible,
Matt,
and that can't happen.
Yeah, so kind of building off of what Kenny's saying, but also like I hear what you're saying, D-Lo, because HV's shooting percentage is actually almost identical. His 3-point percentage is actually slightly up from 37 to 38%. And I mean, his 2-point percentage is up like from 55 to 58%. Free throw percentage down slightly, but he doesn't really get to the foul line. Nobody on this Kings team is getting to the foul line really, and when they do, they're missing him, so who cares? But to Kenny's point, his shooting is down from 15 to 11. Or sorry, his points per game is down from 15 to 11. That right there, I'm willing to chalk up to, like, he's the fifth option on offense in this starting lineup. That's what I expected. But I said coming into this season, if Harrison is still going to play 30-plus minutes a night, which he is, I think. 30.8 minutes per game. If he's going to keep playing 30 minutes a night, but he's not going to be featured as much on the offense, and Mike Brown has said as much, they're not running plays for him. So if his scoring is going to drop off, something else needs to increase. So if your job is no longer to score as much as you were in years past, but you're still out there to help space the floor because you're capable of knocking down that shot, and you're a consistent starting wing in the NBA, like you're the right size, you can physically fit that position. You need to go out and do something else. And he doesn't. Like, his rebounds are down from 4.5 to 3.3. His assists are slightly down. He's never really been an assist guy, but those
his
other
rebounds are down from last year.
Yes, from 4.5 rebounds a game to 3.3. His defensive rebounds are down from 3.4 to 2.5, and he grabs less than an offensive rebound per game. So that's the concerning part, is not only is he not playing well on the defensive end, which so many Kings players aren't, so I'm not going to single him out necessarily, but his defense has not been good. His scoring is down. We expected that. But his rebounding being down and his overall impact, especially in big games, that's what concerns me. And again, I've been Team Barnes, and I like Harrison Barnes a ton. I am concerned about moving on from Harrison Barnes and the impact that could have on this Kings
culture.
Culture. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Harrison just walked in and threw Matt's mic down.
The ghost of Harrison Barnes. I like HB too. I hate being mean about the guy.
I think we all like HB.
I guess
we all love HB. We just
maybe I don't production. Because I'm not particularly moved by the way that he's playing. This is what I thought was gonna. This is what I expect. I didn't expect much more than we're seeing. I do get frustrated with the 2, and the 3. But like I was like, Kevin Huerter has a game where he scored 1 and 0. But this I think is the most important part. Mike challenged Kevin Huerter to do something else. And he did. And he's done that consistently, even when his shot is in hell. Harrison, it doesn't feel like is doing that. So I guess, stalling out Harrison has to stop. If Kevin Huerter can go get 6 rebounds, why the hell can't Harrison Barnes? But I'll ask this. I don't even know if I'm asking it. I think I'm stating it. Juan Toscano-Anderson isn't taking Harrison Barnes' place, is he?
Not at all. Not at all.
That goes back to what I said. Do they need to make a move?
And that's the question I interrupted. So go ahead.
Do they need to make a move? When I say make a move, I ain't talking JTA. I'm talking
welcome
about,
to Sacramento. Welcome to the team.
Welcome to JTA for sure. But do they need to go make a potentially franchise-altering move?
I need to make a move to a new microphone because this thing's
you're doing a great job holding it. You look like a rock star. It's
things
good.
falling apart. Yes. And so, yes, they do need to make a move, I think. But I don't think the move is going to be out there this year. Kind of going back to what I said earlier. Like, I just don't think it's there, because you're trying to in a trade scenario, the Kings are not trading Keegan Murray. They're not going to. The only way I can see them trading Keegan Murray is if they are getting a star in return who is also under contractual control, who fits long. It's not happening.
I don't think that's
so.
happening.
The two most likely players that the Kings are moving on from are Harrison Barnes and Davion Mitchell, both guys with average to below average value. Davion Mitchell's value is pretty much tanked at this point. He's gotten his position taken by a two-way player. Like, let's be real for what it is. A two-way player came in and stole Davion's spot. So, like, you're not trading Harrison and Davion for an upgrade at Harrison's position. I just don't think it's realistic to expect that. You could add draft compensation on top of that to try and sweeten the deal, but I don't think the Raptors are considering that for OG or Pascal or anything like that. Maybe if the draft compensation is good enough, but those waters are muddied too because of the Kevin Huerter trade. So, like, I don't see a way where the Kings make the upgrade that needs to be made for these problems to be fixed this year. I think the problem is fixed by writing it out, seeing how far you get, seeing where Keegan is at, and if Keegan is ready for another step on top of that in his third year this summer, and then making a decision about Harrison, Kevin, even Malik at that point. Although I think the decision for Malik is easy. Bring him the hell back. Like, I think Malik's making the easiest decision for you this offseason, as long as you can get him there. But maybe you consider Huerter and Harrison are on the move there. Maybe you have a little more context about Domantas Sabonis. What if he stinks it up in the playoffs again? I don't think they're going to consider moving on from him, but if he plays really well in the playoffs, you're solidified in your I got my point guard and I got my center. I'm good. And now I got my wing and Keegan that I think can take me there, but I need to add some help on the side. So I just don't see a move, Kenny, that the Kings can make that solve these problems this year without giving up pieces that aren't a part of the problem.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
I agree. I understand.
I wouldn't completely rule out the idea of Kevin Huerter being traded. I know we focus on Harrison and Davion. I get that. If there's a real deal for one of the Toronto guys or something else that the league's not talking about, I wouldn't rule out the idea of Kevin Huerter being moved. Not advocating for it, not championing it, not telling you it's going to happen. I'm just saying.
I understand.
I think Kevin has come a long way since that guy who had to sit in one of the preseason games or come off the bench in one of the preseason games to where he is now. He was challenged by his head coach to do more, and he's done that. He has made an impact on the floor. He's a good ball player.
Yeah.
I think people are going to have feelings about Harrison Barnes. I think Harrison Barnes would probably be a really good trade candidate to like a contending team. Oh, we love a guy like Harrison Barnes. It'd be great for us. Well, what are you getting in return from a contending team? And so that's where Kevin Huerter comes into play for me. If you're looking to land something that's out there or something that we haven't heard about, I'd at least keep an eye on that.
Shooters are always extremely valuable. Kevin Huerter is on a fantastic contract. And you have control over him for a long time. That's why I believe the Kings won't want to give up on him, because they have a shooter that they know fits that spot. But it's a lot easier to imagine a world where the Kings move on from Kevin Huerter for a wing or whatever help they're looking to get and plug Malik into that starting lineup and all ahead full still than it is to move on from Harrison, plug someone in Harrison's position, maybe move Keegan to the 3 and figure it out that way. And really quick in the chatty house, because I've seen people like this, and I want to address this comment by Spencer. He says, I hear you, Matt, but you're wasting young guys on the bench giving HB minutes. That comment about HB is what frustrates me, because there's nobody behind Harrison Barnes. There's nobody on this roster right now that is worthy of HB's minutes. HB is not holding Sasha Vezenkov back. Sasha is not ready for what HB does. HB is not holding Trey Lyles back. Kessler Edwards is not an NBA starting caliber player, so forget about it. He can't even crack the rotation consistently, and he's a defensive guy that Mike Brown loves, right? There is nobody on this roster to fill Harrison's spot. If there was, they'd be here by now. The Kings are riding out with what they got with Harrison, and you could have a whole hell of a lot worse than Harrison. And if you don't believe me, look through the playoff drought and look up a guy named John Salmons or Andres Nocioni or some of the other names we've had at that position over the years here in Sacramento. There are definitely worse players than Harrison Barnes that the Sacramento Kings could have, so I don't appreciate or agree with people making Harrison out to be the biggest, main, only problem that the Sacramento Kings have. The Kings need 40 at that position. They need him right now. They do need to upgrade him, I think, but the upgrade is not on this roster.
Yeah, this isn't 2014 where we got to give the young guys a run. No, that's not what we're doing here. Yeah. As it stands right now, Harrison Barnes is still the Sacramento Kings' best opportunity to win. We questioned whether it would be Sasha at some point. Sasha's not there yet. We've seen growth from Sasha in the young part of the season, in the first quarter of the season. That's fantastic. Let my man keep going. Like, Harrison isn't holding Sasha back. Like, Sasha's still got some things to figure out in the league.
Yeah. Well, the Kings, they have to be careful because De'Aaron did turn down that deal.
Bruh.
Thanks, Iggy.
Like, come on. Like, and I appreciate Kyle Madsen, who was like, well, let's see if there's some context to this. He goes and watches it. There's no context to it. And then Rory says, well, maybe he didn't know the salary cap. Bro, he's the head of the players union. What are you talking about? That was like why do you do this? Why do they do this?
Iggy, we like you, dog.
The vortex of podcast idiocy. And it was, I always joke that the funniest thing about Vlade's I had a better offer 2 days ago was the look on his face, right? I had a better offer 2 days ago, and he looks down like, huh? That was Ty and that was Iggy and Evan Turner.
Like he was dropping a bar.
Like he turned down $100 million. Following the conversation about Tyrese as if they kept De'Aaron and De'Aaron doesn't want to be here.
Like they was dropping a bar.
Like, come on, Iggy.
Iggy's still mad at the Sacramento Kings and Pete D'Alessandro for not giving him the contract after he was a free agent when he went to Golden State for the first time. Remember, the Kings were the front runner to land him after his years in Denver, and then it didn't work out. And I think Iggy spoke publicly about how that bothered him or whatever because of Pete. Pete was his guy in Denver.
What in the hell with Pete? Not the Kings. Got nothing to do with this. De'Aaron got nothing to do with this.
Oh boy, Iggy.
Hell, Kings fans don't like Pete. We got something in common, Iggy. Dang.
Yeah, boy, Iggy was acting like he dropped a bar, man.
I was
like,
so annoyed when we got tagged in that clip. Like Andre, not you. Not you.
Hey, it had to be Iggy, man. That's my.
With the fly scarf on and everything. Like, man, what you doing?
I like Iggy, but no, seriousness.
Okay.
I think the Kings. Sometimes I wonder if the Kings are just a victim of the fact that they made the playoffs last year. Like if this team would be playing like this last year, do you think we'd be hypercritical of them?
No, absolutely not.
And that comes with the territory. I'm not even saying like, oh,
but we knew
Kings.
that.
Yeah.
You said it. You were the first to say it. You were the very first to say that. It's not going to be the same next year.
But so that's why I'm kind of sitting back, and I just want to see more consistency from this group before they make a move or, start to have those talks about making a move. Give this team. I mean, this is a big stretch coming up. The rest of this little homestand right here. See, what can you do here? Some big time teams. I think they got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games. Can you go 4-2 in these 6 games at home? If you can go 4-2, I'd feel great. I'd be like, yo, this team is on the right path. But if you go 2-4, some people might not make it to 2024 as a Sacramento King.
No, I think that's a fair expectation, Kenny. But to go back what you initially said, like the reason why we're more critical this year is, we have the context of the playoffs, number one. Number two is this is the bed they've made for themselves. You have your head coach taking the podium every day and going, we're trying to get from good to great. If they're holding themselves to that expectation, why shouldn't everybody else? That's why I've been more critical this year than I've been in years at times when the Kings were terrible. And I was the optimistic Matt George, like as if it's a wrestling gimmick. Like
everything's a wrestling gimmick.
Everything is. The world is. That was one of my notes. But
Well, I was gonna say we got about 2 minutes left around that. Do you want to go over your D'Lo and Casey show notes from December?
All right, rapid fire notes here. Number 1, Kyle Kuzma's fall is like a sped up video of old people falling. That was my first note. Just watch old people falling and speed it up. That's what Kyle Kuzma looked like. Number 2, Kyle Madsen dropping 140 or 1140 slip ups is worse than my multiple F-bombs on the air.
Yeah,
I'm putting that.
Yours was funny. Yours was funny. Yours was very, very funny because at least the one you had with me, the shocked look on your face when you realized what you said was just
pure terror. Everybody liked it except for Jesse. Number 3, Leezy pre-writes the intros to his calls, and he should write Drake bars that Kenny has to perform one day.
Oh, I like that. I don't know why Kenny got dragged into this, but I like it.
I just want to hear Leezy's Drake bars, and Kenny has to do it.
That's funny.
Number 4, building off of the Giannis conversation, my son takes stuff from me all the time, and he won't give it back to me when I need it and I demand it. So I'm ready to fight him too. So I understand Giannis completely. And then finally, if Draymond Green were a WWE guest, he would be the rare guest that comes in with heat from the crowd and he gets rocked. And I would love to see it be like Brock Lesnar or someone that just puts him in an F5. But don't tell him he's going over and then have Brock just pick him up.
Well, the good news is if you look at past black WWE champions, Brock Lesnar just comes out and F5s the hell out of him. So Draymond Green, I saw him posing with the belt.
For the record,
that picture was making the rounds. So
for the record, I didn't mean that. That wasn't what I meant by that.
No, that is what you meant.
No, that's not what I meant by that. Forget that. No. It could be anybody else.
George at abc10.com.
It could be Bobby Lashley.
Matt, we appreciate you so much.